Good evening and welcome to the July 28th open session of the Joplin Schools Board of Education. Roll call, please. Call this meeting order. Roll call.
Linda Van Wert. Present. Sally Beard.
Present.
Debbie Ford.
Present.
Ron Gatz.
Present.
Jeff Hope.
Present.
Jennifer Martucci.
Present.
And Gary Knopfler.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you all join me in stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda, is there a motion for the agenda?
I move approval.
Sally,
I would like to move that item G1 be moved to follow public comments. Agenda, following item E.
okay. G1.
Early childhood, we're going to move it up in the
We're going to move the
agenda.
early childhood up to near the front after the public comments. So,
And why are we doing that?
now I would entertain a motion to,
I move approval.
all right, a motion by Ron and a second by
So moved.
Linda. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, great. We'll start off, Board President's report. This will be my shortest report yet. I'd like to introduce Dr. Ritter to the boardroom.
Well, thank
you
you.
very much. I'm so excited.
Appreciate that.
And I'll let you have the floor.
Well, thank you for that. By the way, I was really impressed with you guys as far as the conversation around early childhood. That was intense. Good job. And by the way, my first week, let's just put it this way. There's a lot of things we have to do. There's a lot of things we're going to do. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I can guarantee you that we're going to be very transparent. For instance, we're going to take all the salaries, and they're going to be on the website. Everybody's salary is going to be on the website. And so, and then also, as far as the transparency is concerned, we really have to understand the data. And what I'm finding is that the data in one department is not consistent with the data, the same look for the data in another department. And so we're really having a problem, and to be honest with you, this is pretty typical, because we don't have a data center, we don't have a data warehouse, we don't have something that kind of purifies our data. And so it's hard for me to get my hands on that, okay? So really the only data, as we had the conversation, the only data that really is solid is DESI's data. And so I can guarantee you we'll get that all straightened out rather quickly as well. So in the short time, great people, good hearts. Your system needs a lot of work, let's put it that way. The system is kind of sick. And so my job, our job as a board, and I as part of your board, as a governing body, is to make sure that I come back with an analysis and on October 1st with the plan. And then after the first of the year, really February 1st, March 1st, somewhere in that area, I'll come to you with a one-page strategic plan for this district. One page. I guarantee you it's going to be really focused, because you have way too many things going on. Way too many things, and some of it is tied to the storm, but I think it's typical education where everybody's really working hard but not very smart. And it's nobody's fault but politicians, to be honest with you, along with a lot of different. Sorry, I should have pointed at you, Gary, but yeah, you're part of that discussion. I'm sorry, but anyway. So really, the bottom line is, in my initial week, is, and I need to get to know and understand the teachers. But I've always found teachers really have sincerity in their heart, and I think we need to look for a way that the system can support these teachers in a very strong way. And ultimately, bottom line, is that these kids need to really be in charge of their learning. And so to empower the teachers, get the kids in charge of the learning, you need to have a high-performing system. We need a good governing board, and I think this can happen. this can happen, but it's going to take longer than I initially thought. I'm going to say that right now. And so anyway, looking forward to it. My wife, we sold our house, and man, did we lose money on that one. But anyway, we sold our house, and so she's working through her work, acute dialysis. She's stepping away from that, and we'll be here at the end of August. And so we're looking forward to that. And so we will be without a house as long as we're in Joplin. And anyway, excited about it, and I guarantee you it's going to be a lot of fun. And I will keep you informed as much as possible. There's going to be some changes that are occurring, but it's all going to be for the good. So anyway, thank you. And that's all I have to report this time.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. All right, we'll start with the board committee updates. So I know the finance committee had an opportunity to meet. I'll defer to Ron. Ron, would you like to share activities in the finance committee?
Yeah, we had a couple of agenda items that'll be coming up later. One was the engagement of a financial advisor, and that was presented and will result in a recommendation this evening. Paul, jog my memory, what was the other one?
I think we just talked about some year-end closing entries that were not going to be coming to the board.
Year-end closing entries that don't
Discussed.
have to come to the board, but
Right.
it was basically a review of that transfer discussion at the last meeting.
All right,
So that's really the only two things we worked
Okay.
on.
great. Policy committee, did you guys meet?
Yes, we did. We have.
Oh, yes. You have a long list.
Policies on the agenda,
Yep.
but one in particular just to address something that came up in a meeting was looking at our facilities and our brand-new facilities and whether to lock them. And that caused some very healthy debate the first time that was brought up in the policy meeting. And what was decided is that we would lock the facilities that are competition facilities, as in varsity competition facilities. Some of our facilities are at the level that we can now host district tournaments, et cetera. Chime in, Jason, if there's anything I'm missing here. But I think that was kind of a particular important component that.
Right. Yeah, specifically, we're talking to the outdoor facilities at the high school with the turf and you know, the construction and starting late, we just, they didn't get locked, and so policy committee, we started discussing it and saying, you know, we appreciate the public and what's the right move on this, and ultimately, we just worked our way backward from what's the priority of the fields is for the athletic competitions of the students' competition, their competition fields. And so in order to preserve that priority, locking the fields seemed the wise thing. It also helped prevent we're hoping it will help prevent some things like littering and some things like that had been reported, in addition to helping limit our liability for any accidents that could happen if we had continue to leave them open. So,
Facilities committee?
sorry, there's one more thing. On the action item, we will next month bring I'd put it on the action item as far as a fee for renting the facilities, but I'd made some last minute changes and didn't want to drop that on the board, 24 hours. So we're going to wait for next month to give you some time to look at the fees and to prove it. But I did have that on the action item, but because I'd made a last minute change and didn't get it to you, I didn't want to put you in that position.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. As you can tell, we all want to take a look at absolutely everything.
Yes.
Okay. Facilities committee?
Facilities Committee did meet, and we had a good discussion. I think it brought Gary and me up to speed. We took no action, so there's no action to report.
Okay. Okay. Communications committee?
Trying to think what our
Okay.
first, it was early. It was
Sorry.
early that morning. No, it's good. We did talk about the Eagle Legacy Award, which I think we all got an email about today, right? I've seen it. And that's an award that the board gives to a community member who's made an impact on the
the community or on the schools. There's some criteria in there, and anyone can nominate, and I think nominations open,
Friday, maybe?
they're open now,
Okay.
so you can go in, I'm sorry?
Through August 7th.
Through August, okay, I knew there was an August date in there, so through August 7th, and it's on our website, Kelly, on the district website. So anyone can go in and nominate somebody for that award, and that's given out on opening day of the
teacher's
teacher's
first day.
first day back. So,
We appreciate suggestions and nominations.
right.
Okay. We also talked, I maybe am blending between from communications and
Finance.
financial. We're going to add some community members to our groups as we come together. I know we talked and if
Finance
about
committee is going to add.
the finance committee
community
about
members.
putting some CPAs from the local community, helping tap into the knowledge base that we've got in the community to help balance the board between it being something we think we might be experts in to something that somebody actually is an expert in. So we'll be putting out more information in the coming weeks about how we're going to open up our committees and share more engagement with the community. So wasn't sure if that was finance or communications we talked about because they were back-to-back days, so.
We talked about both times,
Okay.
both days we talked about it,
I
yeah.
remember. Okay.
And we're going to and Dr. Ritter's going to help us come up with some goals for our committees and kind of give us some more structure and direction, which will be great.
I've already got that. I'll get that to you.
Great.
I forgot.
Great. Okay, that's all of our committee reports. Next thing on the agenda, superintendent's report in your first week.
Oh, I already did.
Oh, that was great.
That's what that was. I apologize.
No
But
worries.
anyway, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Didn't know if you had anything else because you've sent quite a number of emails and had a number of meetings already, so.
I have. But really, when the school year starts and the announcements are made, it's basically going to be a challenge to get everybody to the table to have a conversation. And so the forums will be announced and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm really kind of weighing to see what kind of forums we're going to have. So I'll let you know as we go. So thank you.
Great. Okay, so we're ready for item E, which is public comments regarding the agenda. Terry and Ray Malcolm, if you would, if you come up here to the microphone. Oh, and it's
Hear me better than I could hear you guys earlier.
Great.
I tried listening.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to read the nice statement. It says, when you approach the microphone, please give your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. Linda is our designated timekeeper because she has found it fastest. Please do not identify any district personnel or any student by name or any other identifiable information. And you've got 3 minutes. Share with us what's on your mind.
Okay. First of all, I'm not necessarily politically correct, but I am extremely honest. And I don't want to call anybody liars or be rude, but the daycare situation, it will impact us. I don't know who they've talked to, but I myself called 12 daycares today. None of them have a waiting line. They all have openings. I've been in the business for 23 years. It's extremely hard to be at capacity. And it's kind of unbelievable to believe that you can take 600 kids. It's not going to affect the CP center. It's not going to affect the daycares. It's not, I mean, that's just unbelievable. It's not possible. And let's see here, let me get my notes or I'll just start going off. I'm a business owner. I work really hard and I have to stay within a budget. I have to make a profit or I have to shut my doors. I don't believe the same thing will happen here. If you guys don't meet your goals, you're going to keep going. And you're going to come to me, the taxpayer, and you're going to take my money to keep your thing going. So I'm not going to be cutting my own throat. And it's not right. It's private sector. There's plenty of daycares around. Several of them also I spoke to today have room to expand, and they don't have a need to. I don't think it's right that, you know, the other daycares are going to go out of business. So it's been my understanding that some of the teachers that are going to work there are going to be semi-retired. You know, they're going to take jobs away from people that this is their only job. It's going to put people out of work. It's also going to shut down people that pay taxes to fund you guys. Then there ain't going to be as much funding available to you because you're going to put us out of business. The report, I've looked over it. I don't know where they got these numbers, but they're wrong. I mean, I've been running this business for 23 years, and I can write down a bunch of words, but that don't make it right. If you sit down and you look this over, it's, you know, the parents that are supporting this think it's free. The waiting list is for the free programs, not for the people that are gonna charge $88, I believe it's for a half a day, not a whole day. 88 for a half a day. People don't realize that. They think it's free, it's Joplin schools. Anybody I've talked to does not realize they have to pay $88 for a half a day. Any coverage on the media has not brought this out. Go back and look at it. All the comments are, yay, free daycare. They're not saying you have to pay, the people do not realize it. And just because the money's offered, doesn't mean we have to spend it. And we don't have to spend it on something like that. That's a large amount of money. I was listening to people say, oh, 1.2 million. I'll work hard for my money. That's not free money. That's my tax dollars. It's federal, state, it's my money. And it's not right. And I'm done, dang it.
Thank you, Ms. Malcolm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's more.
Okay. Please state your name and address. And,
211 F Street.
okay, and again, please don't list anyone by name or personally identifiable. The floor is yours.
That's my wife, and so we're together. I said, the fact of the matter is, if you guys had to go get a loan for this from any bank, I don't care what bank you went to, you would take these numbers up there, and they would say, I'm not going to give you a loan for this because you cannot maintain it. There is no way that you can run at capacity. No business runs at capacity ever. And to maintain what you guys are saying, you have to run at capacity to make that $1.2 million. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, there's lots of educators in here, very intelligent, very smart people. Which person in here, if you could make $1.2 million next year, wouldn't be making a beeline for the bank? All of us would be. The fact of the matter is, those aren't real numbers, and you would go to a bank and they would say, there's no way. We can't do that. You know, and you're coming up with those numbers. And I said, and they're just generic numbers. I can make any number up I want, and if I can't back it up, it means nothing. You guys can't prove that you can make that kind of money. There's no way. And like my wife said, it will affect private daycares. It'll affect the private sector. It'll take jobs away from people that are working very hard, tax-paying citizens. You know, and that's what's going to happen. That facility will pay no school taxes. My facility, lots of other facilities in this area pay school taxes. That won't. That'll pay no taxes. You know, you give me a $27 million or a $10 million building, I can make money, I will guarantee it. But I promise you, the government cannot make money. You can ask the people that were in government on this council, and you tell me just one government agency that's ever made a profit. There's not one. You could not name one government agency in the last 100 years that made a profit. And that's what this is going to be. It's a government agency, whether you think it is or not. They're listing at it as we can make money at it. You can't make money at it to begin with, because they're going to have this and this and this. We know how the school districts run. And I said, my kids went to school here, and I love that. But the fact of the matter is, they're not set up to make a profit. And you'll just lose money, and then it'll be, well, we need to raise school taxes, we need to pass a bond to pay for this. It's, you know, like they said earlier, it said we will not go over budget. Well, let's face it. The Joplin School District was millions and millions of dollars over budget. They had to pass a bond, and which barely, by the way, got passed. The taxpayers are getting tired of that. I know I am as a taxpayer. I can't afford any more taxes. And so when you get the building 3/4 of the way done and you go, well, we said we wouldn't go over budget, but we did. So now it's for the kids. It's for the kids. So we got to pass a bond. And that's how the last one got passed, and it's not right. There's no way it can be run economically. There's no way it can be run as a profit. Because it's, like I said, we're business owners, been that way for a long, long time. And if anybody in here that's owned a business knows for a fact how hard, especially in today's world, it is to make a profit.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you.
F, the consent agenda.
We reordered, remember?
There was one pull, right?
Yep, we pulled it from the back side.
No, I'm talking about the policy that,
Mr.
Jason.
Cravens?
which one was it?
KG,
KG?
it's just a component of that.
Are there any other changes, anything that needs to be pulled out of the consent agenda for conversations?
So I can use what?
So we're pulling KG completely off, 3A.
Yes, 3A, strike completely. Mr. Cravens wants to rework that and bring it back again?
Well, one part I did want to approve the policy change. There's one,
Okay.
I just pulled off, I should clarify, I just wanted to pull off the pricing.
Gotcha. So, open up KG. So we KG without the dollar value.
Yeah, without the pricing.
Okay.
So we're not really pulling it, we're
No, we're gonna
modifying
leave on
it?
there
Okay.
for approval.
Everything's that pricing.
But we're gonna leave the cost value off of there. Any other items that need discussion from the consent agenda? If not, I would accept a motion to accept as amended.
We reordered the agenda, Mr. President.
So
Early-
now is it,
I put it immediately following E.
okay,
Or, well, no, I didn't. I think Mr. Gatz'
Well-
motion did.
The Childhood Center should be the next item on the
right,
agenda.
so is that F then?
It should
Does it
be-
get renumbered?
It should be just before the consent
Should be
agenda.
before the consent agenda.
Right.
We forgot about
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you. I moved right past that. I wrote it in, thank you, ma'am. Okay, so we did move up on the regular agenda item, Early Childhood Center, G1. So discussion first.
Gary was prepared to make a motion.
I was
We're good.
prepared to make,
Yeah.
I can either make a single motion that's bifurcated or divide the question into two motions. At first, I think I want to make a motion that we strike item 4, offering child care services for infants 6 weeks to 2 years old within 12 months of opening from the proposal.
So what is your motion?
My motion is to strike that portion from this proposal.
Where it says offer childcare services for infants 6
Right.
weeks to 2 years old.
Page 1, where it lists
Yep.
the description of the proposal, strike item 4.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Now you discuss.
okay.
Now, wait a minute, hold it.
There's a motion, there's a
We
second.
need to have a motion to support, then you bring your motion up to adjust. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that's what I said, I could either,
It's cleaner to go with the initial motion and then have a second, and then you bring in your motion to amend the motion.
the other way is simply to make the motion including the amendment.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So.
Okay, either way.
if-
All right.
If we don't want to divide the question, then I would.
Let's put it
for
in
the
a
purpose
simple
of my
one.
first question, yeah, all right. Well, I will withdraw the first motion, and I would move the adoption of the recommendation with
There you go.
an amendment striking item 4.
There you go.
And what is item 4?
Item 4 is to
Because they're
offer
not
child
numbered.
care services for infants 6 weeks to 2 years old within 12 months of opening.
So,
I'll second that again.
okay, great. Gary, Sally. So my question is, where does 2.5-year-old fit? In the part that's stricken or the remaining 3 to 5?
If
Well,
they're
there's a
eligible,
2.5-year-old.
if they're eligible for preschool at 3 to 5,
included
that's
in
all we're
both.
serving.
Yep, that's all you're serving is 3 to 5 with your
Yeah, so
proposal.
3 to
Okay.
5.
Great.
So then we wouldn't be serving children until they were 3 years old.
That's right.
Correct.
They would still,
Except for special ed.
they would still qualify for parents as teachers, though.
Absolutely, and to go into that, and as far as first steps, the same actions that are in place in providing services to children would remain the same. What we're looking at with the 6 weeks to 2 years taken out of the proposal, you're looking at our proposal basically now serving those students that are enrolled in our early childhood program, which would be our preschool.
And the numbers would remain roughly the same because the vacancies created by the removal of the infants would be replaced by expanded service availability.
So we would be servicing more children, 3 to 5, because we're pulling out children 6 weeks to 2.
The number of slots would be the
Number of
same.
slots.
Space availability would increase.
Yeah.
And those are preschool slots, not daycare slots.
Those are preschool slots.
But they're daycare slots too, aren't they?
And with that, we'd have before and after
Potentially.
school daycare in order for the students to access that.
You may have a preschool student that doesn't take advantage of the daycare.
And keeping in mind too, that if there are students with disabilities, again, if they're in existing daycare facilities, we will continue to transport them to and from as we always have.
So Mark, address the $88 cost for me then. That's $88 for 5 days a week? Would they come to preschool 5 days a week?
Yeah, 5 half days. Correct. And that's if they came to the preschool and then accessed the daycare after that half day of preschool.
They can come to preschool and not come to daycare,
Exactly.
or they can do both.
Exactly.
But if they choose the daycare, it's $88 a week.
Right.
And if you choose daycare, you're required to attend.
And that's another factor
School.
that, you just can't just access the daycare. You have to enroll into the preschool program as the proposal.
Right.
So what is the impact on local daycares if we're increasing the number of slots available? So now we're serving 220 students a half day, 220 in the morning, 220 in the afternoon?
At capacity, that we could
At
reach that
capacity.
capacity in doing that.
And currently, we're serving how many morning and how many afternoon?
About 95 in each AM and PM session.
We're going to 220. So that's 125 more students in each slot.
And I think that, when you look proportion to the size of the district and you look at what other districts are doing, that's not out of the ballpark in regards to reaching that number.
And if we have 33 daycares in existence in the state of Joplin, or in the city of Joplin right now, that's potentially pulling 4 students from each daycare. Except how many students are enrolled in daycares right now? Is there a market out there of students that aren't going to daycare, aren't coming to our program?
Absolutely. I think that there is a market of children that aren't accessing daycare at all, and I think that our program in and of itself might prompt parents to do that because of the fact that we can offer preschool and daycare in doing that.
Is preschool free for everybody, 3 to 5, or just those with lower income and special ed?
Well, I think, right now, the way the model's set up is that we only have capacity to serve those students that are either low to moderate income by Title I and special education. And if we could, and we have classrooms and we want to have tuition-based fee-for-services preschools, we can do that as well.
Do you subsidize on a sliding scale at all? Do parents pay anything for preschool, or they just?
We've discussed that, and we could probably entertain that more, but we determined to keep it at a flat rate. And we did not want to undercut anybody, and I think that we were pretty transparent even from the beginning during public comment that it would, we make no bones about it, it probably would impact the private sector in some regard. But I also make the argument that I think that we would be pulling more people in that's not accessing daycare at all than we would for the total impact of taking students out of existing daycares. But we agree, there's going to be, I think if you look at any research out there, it indicate that when you do this, there is an impact on the local market. But I think that, again, if you look at the long-term outcomes of providing this type of high-quality services, the economical impact for the community as a whole is not something that you can just overlook.
But all those students that are children that wouldn't be preschool children, that would be purely child care customers are made available for the daycare centers.
And I think too, and that's exactly right. And when you look at this, there is a service being provided by daycares and some people access Christian daycares or whatever it might be. What Joplin Schools is offering is almost considered an intervention. The type of services we're providing, it's going to be high quality rigor, provided by certified teachers at that point. And the daycare side of that's going to be with licensed daycare providers. So it is a different product, it's a different model, and it will, I would definitely say it's going to have an impact.
One of the things we're going to be looking at, I guarantee you, is kindergarten readiness. And I don't think we have our hands on that right now. And we're going to have to do that, figure out how many of our kids are ready for kindergarten. And I guarantee you, the percentage of kids that are ready for kindergarten are going to be the same. We're going to see the same margin of kids not at grade level by the end of third grade in reading. So that's going to be a big issue.
And that's a very solid
to me,
statistic.
That's huge.
We have, and we have the numbers for that, and we can tell you that kindergarten readiness in our last round, 60% of our kindergarten enrollment was not kindergarten ready. That's significant.
16%?
60%.
60.
And that's pretty high.
It is high.
Is that what you consider at risk?
Yes. And those are students that scored after their dial 4 screening was probably 40% below.
It's very, very hard.
60% of 690 kids.
Right. It's very, very hard to get those kids to grade level.
And I think it's close to a 700 enrollment. You're right, Jeff.
That's from your December meeting.
Yeah.
Earlier, did we say there's a one-to-one ratio about what students are eligible to come to this school? Low, moderate income, special ed. And so then, can you have one student that doesn't meet either of those requirements
Sure.
in this school, one-to-one, if there are spaces available?
Absolutely, and that's something that you look at. The primary requirement we have for accepting and being a subrecipient of this grant is the low to moderate income criteria. Outside of that, we're compelled by law to provide early childhood special education, and as our budget allows, we increase our Title I in doing that. So the children we have coming in, the one-to-one ratio that we have, you might have a student that is not at risk, but we have space available. They may be a typical developing student that we're allowed to put into a special education classroom. And we at times, we charge a fee base for that too. There's a tuition for that.
So this student that's coming and meeting this one-on-one ratio, are his parents paying a fee for them to come to?
They absolutely could, yes.
But will they? Does every 3 to 5-year-old student get to come to the preschool if there's an opening? Or are some parents going to have to pay for them to come to preschool?
All 3 to 5-year-olds that are at risk in special education have access free of charge. Okay, and then if we have space available, if we have children that are coming in that want to access that high quality preschool, they can, and that is tuition based.
And what are we going to charge them?
The same rate that we have.
The $88?
So $176 a week
Full-time.
for full-time, before and after, and including
If they, and that's if they access the daycare and
Right.
the preschool.
They're not required to stay for daycare.
No.
They are not.
That's their option.
They are, yeah. But if they enroll, they cannot just access daycare.
Right.
They have to enroll, but once they
It only
enroll,
goes
they
one
don't
way.
have to access daycare.
But why can't they have a free education too? Why can't a child come
You know,
to
and-
a half-day?
Well, I mean,
And
this
be
is something, well,
educated.
and that's a very solid point, and this is something you can look at. And I can tell you that I've been early childhood programs. I've 15 years been doing this, and I can tell you that in some situations that the reverse mainstream, the typical developing student in a special education classroom, you don't have to charge them. They don't have to be Title I. They can just be your typically developing student. You don't have to charge them because that program itself is, as long as you have 50% special education in that setting, it's 100% reimbursed. So
So I wanna know,
there's
are we
potential.
going to charge them?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. Are we charging, yes or no?
We're charging peer models $50 a month currently. So you either come in and get special ed services, or you qualify for Title I with 40%, those students are 40%, at the 40 percentile for at-risk, okay? Or they're above that 40 percentile, and we put them in the model list.
And right now,
And
those
right now,
parents pay $50
a month.
month.
A month, and they are in the special ed classrooms. So your special ed and models are here, and your Title Is are here. What we're proposing is when we expand that, when those early childhood special ed spots, when those models fill up, then we would have tuition-based daycare for the rest of the kids on the waiting list. We'd say, okay, you don't have special services, we don't have a spot for you as a peer model, and we don't have a spot for you as a Title I, but you have an option to pay tuition, $88 a week for preschool. That's the way Webb City does it. That's how they're serving so many more students, is because they opened up that tuition-based option.
But their parents are paying taxes already to our school district. So why would we charge them for their child to come to
Because
school?
it's 3 to 5, and they're not, you don't come to school till, right.
I guarantee you that to help kids catch up to grade level by 3rd grade, that's very expensive. And we're not spending the money, I think, we'll find out. But we're not spending the money there that we need to spend. And early childhood is going to help us with that, but it's not going to solve the problem. I guarantee you that as well. But I think we're going to see a high percentage of early childhood children that are going to be at grade level by the end of 3rd grade. If they didn't have it, they'd be struggling. And so I think it's going to be a cost of intervention later or early childhood now. So,
Because the percentage of kids that went to our program, and keep in mind, about 50% of them have special needs. 70% of the kids that left early childhood were ready for kindergarten. So, I mean, that's a significant amount, especially when you're considering that 50% of those are on an IEP.
oh, okay. I was going to say, clarify, okay.
Are we reimbursed for the developing appropriately child?
No.
So that's why we charge them tuition, because we don't get money refunded on them like we do the title and the
Well,
SPED.
the way you would look at that is that as long as there's 5 children, 5 IEP students in that classroom, then that whole classroom is 100% reimbursed, but it's based upon the 5 special education students, not the 5 typically developing. So yes, in regards, but because you have 5 special ed students in that classroom, 5 typically developing students can't access that free. If you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
So then, is that profit?
No. It's a sum zero game. At the end of the year, what we're going to do, we have a $1,200,000 cost. The subsequent year, we're going to get a monthly reimbursement based upon $1.2 million.
But if 5 of those 10 students are Title I SPED, so 5.
They're not Title I, though. If they're eligible for Title I, we don't charge them. They are in title classrooms,
So if in
yes.
this classroom, there's 5 kids that meet the criteria, so we can add 5 appropriately developing
Right.
students in there, and that whole classroom is refunded.
Exactly.
Okay, so, but we're charging these 5 parents tuition, so is that money profit? That, the tuition that we're charging the developing appropriately students, is that
We do create a fund
profit?
balance with that, correct.
You do what?
We do
That's
create a
just
fund
supply-
balance with that.
That becomes an activity fund.
And then what
has
happens
been-
with that money?
Well,
Where-
also, just let me interject, you may be hiring more teachers to teach those 5 additional also, right?
Well, the teacher ratio is 1 to
Yeah,
10, right?
And the
So-
teacher ratio would, of course, be covered in doing that, but, yeah.
So where does
You're
that money
talking
go?
about our current program right now, the $50 we charge peer models right now, that goes into an activity fund, that goes into cooking activities, anything for the classroom. It goes right back into the classroom.
But isn't that all refundable or not?
Not
No.
necessarily, no.
That money basically is that's revenue to the program that goes into like an activity fund. It's no different than having a concession stand, is the way we look at it, that a high school or middle school might operate. That basically becomes the early childhood activity fund.
Because there's a lot of things that, like the cooking activities, things like that, you couldn't get reimbursed from ECSE, so it's just an additional extra.
So not
Is that
everything is
answering your
reimbursable from ECSC then?
Everything that you can tie to an IEP, yes.
The program. And it may be something, it may be even incentives for the students or things like that, but if it's not directly tied to the IEP, it's not going to be 100% reimbursable. But if you have an IEP student that needs a walker or anything like that, it's reimbursable.
That's reimbursable, right.
But it has to be tied to the IEP.
Okay.
So Gary made a motion, Sally
Good questions.
seconded. Please vote.
Okay. I'm going to say, while I find a great deal of value in early childhood programs, I understand, I just think sometimes timing is everything, and I'd like to see us pay off our current construction loans before we take on more construction. I'd like to see us look at other locations. It concerns me that the city's putting in a park with a pond right next to a child care center. I'd just like to see current numbers, since we're using numbers from November, which is almost a year ago. Things change and our population has changed. So at this time, my vote is no.
Yes.
Yes.
If we vote on this and approve it now, is the location determined? I mean, it's going over there definitely. Is
I
there
would-
any
I would say
opportunity
not.
for conversation
We
about
can bring that conversation
putting
to
it
the
into
table
a
again.
neighborhood? Okay, then I'll say yes.
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 No. Okay, motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Again, good conversation.
Thank
Way to
you.
go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Sally to F.
Yes.
Right.
Now
Now
I'll
to
admit
F.
you can go to F.
Okay, sorry
I really
about that,
wanted to
guys.
have that daycare.
The consent agenda.
As a convenience.
We had a comment put on the consent agenda to pull off of 3A, the cost section. Any other changes to the consent agenda before we have a motion to approve it?
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Ron approved and Sally is seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. G2, accounts payable.
Yes, thank you. The attached bill list items are for payment of materials, equipment, services, salaries, and benefits in both instructional and support areas. The administration recommends that the board approve payment of bills in the amount of $10,787,578.84.
Questions, discussion?
Is this
Motion.
just what we saw at mid-month?
No, this
this
pulls
is-
in mid-month, but it gives you another cycle, the second half of the month. Excuse me.
Paul, I did have that question that, remember I had emailed you and asked you, we did some cash advances to 3 different programs, and it came out of a fund called Fellows.
Well, I remember,
And
yeah.
I asked, and you responded that Fellows is for professional development, like teacher professional
I
development.
think that our tops are new teachers.
Tops, yeah. So I didn't understand, because the cash advances were from Mike Johnson for Bright Futures, and there were 3 of them. One was 500, one was 100, one was 100. So I didn't know why those were coming out of Fellows Professional Development and not out of their respective budgets, like not out of Bright Futures and not out of,
I don't have that email answer. Was that the one a couple days ago that I responded? I don't have that in front of me, but I'd be glad to.
yeah, that was just my
To
only
give you that
question, is
answer.
why it wouldn't come out of their own budget, why it's coming out of Fellows
For those items,
for the cash advances, yeah.
I'll be glad to look into that.
Okay,
for-
I appreciate
further.
that.
I would move approval of the bills to be paid.
Second.
All right, motion by Ron, approval by Gary. Please vote.
Yes.
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 For your information, I've asked Paul in the future to have a summary, a one-page summary, financial summary for you, so he can go over that with you, all right? And then the payment of the bills after that, so anyway, we'll have that in place for you to help with the transparency. So just a kind of heads up on that, okay?
Okay. Paul, is that you again with the selection of financial advisor?
Yes, we had, as Ron mentioned, met last Thursday, Finance Committee, and talked over this item. We've used the financial advisory services in past years to provide analysis, evaluation, and expertise regarding school finances, dealing with both operational and capital needs. They provide an important component to assist the board and administration with financial planning and recommended solution to meet those needs. We sent out an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and posted to the Joplin website July 6. 15 banks and financial firms were contacted, as enclosed in the item. 4 replied to the RFQ, and then we, like I say, we met last week and discussed those. The recommendation is for George K. Bauman Company as financial advisor. They offered an annual fee not to exceed $3,500 to provide ongoing financial advisory services, basically to help when we have a upcoming meeting that involves, say, debt levy setting or looking at our fund balances or some technical issue that the board administration would like to have input on. That's when we'd be accessing the service. Upon approval, the district will negotiate fees with the firm. Administration recommends the board select George K. Baum and Company as financial advisor with an agreement for 1 year that may renew annually as mutually agreeable.
Baum was not the low bid. Can you kind of explain what allows us to not necessarily go with the low bid and what the reasoning is for not going with the low bid?
Okay. The law allows us for professional services such as this, attorneys, architects, engineers to build your buildings, does not require you to go for low bid.
Okay.
I believe, may want Norman to chime in here, but I believe the reason is that for some of these things, especially when you're building 75, 100-year-old buildings and some of these technical professional services that we talk about with legal issues and that you want, you don't want the driving item for the selection to be cheapest price because it may relate to quality or other issues. You know any history on that?
Quality of service.
Quality of service. So,
As opposed to buying a widget.
exactly, and buying pencils or paper supplies.
In case that question came up, I
Right.
thought we'll go ahead
That's
and
a great question.
be
And so,
proactive.
But we do have the ability here, this firm's quote was not the lowest, but it was close to the others. And this is the only quote that we received that did footnote their quote and said upon selection, they would entertain negotiation to further reduce that fee. So if the board approves this evening, we will call them tomorrow and entertain negotiating that down further.
I think that might be appropriate.
Mr. President, I do think it was a consensus at the Finance Committee that they were the preferred provider.
They were. We've got some history with it, history with the company. There was a notation with the audit report that we had to keep separate our financial advisor and our bond service carrier. This allows us to continue to keep those things separate.
Right.
So another
Given that,
plus.
I would move approval of the recommendation.
Second. Ron has moved. Gary is second. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Moving right along, salary schedules.
Yes, this is merely a follow-on from the July 8 meeting when the board adopted salary schedules. Most of that discussion that evening was centered around the teacher salary schedule appropriately, but the action item was written comprehensive for all schedules. Following that meeting, there was good discussion and clarification provided by board officers to administration that clarified the discussion around that July 8 action was that it was not to include raises for staff that were already competitive at the moment. So this merely reflects that post-July 8 action, and it's basically a cleanup item to ask that we, with July 8, we had a clerical schedule that was increased 8 cents. That schedule was determined to be competitive already without that increase. So we're taking that schedule back down to last year's schedule amount with this action.
So if I can clarify, Paul, even a secretary at step 2212 coming in her first year or his first year, that's a competitive salary with the market already. So it's not like we need to look within experience to see everybody on this schedule is already above market, at or above market. And all of the secretaries are paid according to this schedule.
On that piece of information also, really the only one that should not be on a salary schedule is me. And that's because you guys are in charge of me. And so really, to be fair and market-driven, we need to have salary schedules for everybody. Paul, Tina, the whole works. And so we're going to work on that.
And the
we'll get that.
principals, they've
Principals.
asked for a schedule for several years.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Well, anyway, we're going to work on that and get that in place as fast as possible, so, okay?
Now, did we go back and, like you had said, we had grouped people, did we go back and pull people, look and see, and how, okay, so if people are below market, not just certain groups, that some may pull them up, but if there are others within there, sort of kids that are above the curve and the kids that are low, but your class average is here. Did we pull those people up individually?
We applied the raises as they were approved by the board on July 8th to only the positions that were non-competitive. So our first thought on the intent was that, you know, they were grouped in those, whether they were support or supervisory, whatever they were, that not everybody in those groups received raises ultimately. Only those positions that were deemed to be non-competitive received a raise.
So piggyback off on what Dr. Ritter just said about there are some people not on salary schedules, how did they get raises?
Well, because the board, on July 8th.
No, I mean, like, were they given the 200, the 300, the?
Right. So if you think back to that action item from July 8th, there was a $300 raise for these groups. There was a $500 raise amount approved for administrators. Then there was the teacher salary piece. And so there were specific raise amounts designated for specific groups. But they were designated by group.
Individuals in the group.
Individuals in the
As opposed to
group.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's what the difference
Right.
is. That's where, really, it's, yeah.
So what you had were salary schedules. You had a listing of salary schedules, people that are actually paid from a salary schedule, and then you had groups of employees that are not paid from a salary schedule. So those were all.
And that's like the support people and that big category that had.
Yes.
And so everyone within those groups got either the 2 or 3, the 3 or 500 unless they were already at or above market.
Right. That's right.
But nobody got more than 300 or 500.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody trying to call us, this thing made a noise.
They're
Wasn't me.
calling people, crank calling you.
Do you need a motion?
I would take a motion to,
Is it action or is it just?
No, it's just information.
It's just
No,
informational.
No, I believe it's action,
oh,
isn't
it
it?
should be.
It says
It doesn't
action
say,
Does it?
doesn't say
It
action, but it
doesn't?
should be.
Okay.
Is it, should it? Because we already.
Well, no,
I think it's information.
It's just.
No, well, it's presented on mine as an action item. Is that correct, Ms. Waldo?
Yes, it doesn't have action after it, but it should.
It should, okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the individual item does, not the agenda. Is that what the agenda is lacking?
The agenda doesn't say action.
Okay. But the individual item, I believe, on your
It says
keyboard
right
says
here.
action.
Okay.
Because we want to correct the
Decided.
July 8 action, so this schedule is 8 cents higher. We want
So
to
we
bring
took
the
an
8
action
cents
and now
down.
we're correcting an action.
It's
So-
a technical correction, but a correction. nonetheless.
Technical correction that was moved by Sally and seconded by Linda. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion items? Any discussion items left? All right. I would entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Back to closed session by Gary and seconded by
Second.
Jennifer. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. We'll go to closed session, and thank you very much.
Who's in closed session?